Good afternoon and welcome to today's meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee. Welcome also to those watching the meeting on YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode. Only audio from the microphones will be captured on live stream. Therefore, please ensure they are switched on when speaking and off when you've finished speaking. Minutes will be produced in the usual way and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on YouTube until such time as the minutes are produced. The first item on today's agenda is the appointment of the Chairman for the municipal year 2023 to 2024. Do I have a proposer, please? Councillor Harris?
I'd like to propose Councillor Kim French.
Thank you. Can you use your microphone as well? Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to propose Councillor Kim French.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Are there any other nominations? It is therefore proposed that Councillor Kim French is appointed as the Chair of the Audit and Risk Management Committee for the municipal year 2023 to 2024. Is that agreed? Thank you. I will now hand over conduct of the meeting to the Chair.
Thank you, Member Services. I'll begin with agenda item 2 and call upon Member Services to report any apologies for absence.
Thank you. We've had apologies from Councillor Gavin Booth.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3. The next item on the agenda is to appoint the Vice Chairman for the municipal year 23 to 24. I would like to nominate Councillor Stuart Harris. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Christie? Thank you. Any other nominations? No. Thank you. The proposal is therefore to appoint Councillor Stuart Harris as the Vice Chairman of the Audit and Risk Committee for the municipal year of 23-24. Is that agreed? Thank you, members. Councillor Harris, you are duly appointed. Agenda item 4 is to confirm and sign the minutes of the previous meeting of the 20th of March 23 as being a correct record. Do I have a proposer to approve these minutes? Councillor Tierney, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Harris, thank you. Does any member have any comments to make on these minutes? No. Can I have a show of hands to approve these minutes, please? Thank you, members. The minutes of the 20th of March 2023 are therefore agreed. Agenda item 5 is to report additional items for consideration which the Chairman deems urgent by virtue of special circumstances now to be specified, and I believe there are none. Agenda item 6 is to receive any declarations of interest under the Local Code of Conduct in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, please raise your hand. No hands are raised. Thank you. Agenda item 7 is the Internal Audit, Outturn and Quality Assurance Review Report. I now call upon David Thacker, Interim Internal Audit Manager, to introduce the report.
Good afternoon, thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. My name is David Thacker. I'm the Interim Internal Audit Manager. I've been in place since mid-May of this year. So, as you can imagine, these reports are historic for me, and I'll do my best, and I've done my best to provide an accurate report as required. So, the Outturn report or audit opinion, it's quite a detailed report, and I take it that members have had a chance to read the contents. The overall opinion is coming out as adequate, although there is a reduction in the number of audits that we were able to achieve during that year due to resource constraints. But there was a good coverage, a broad coverage compared to the plan. So I was happy to give it an adequate coverage from there. I don't know if you want to ask any questions about the opinion at this stage.
Just on the report itself, I suppose maybe it's one for Peter really, is in terms of the recruitment of internal audit manager, is that something that is progressing, since we've got David as an interim at the moment?
Thank you. Yes, we have an advert live now, which closes at the end of this month, and we'll see what happens then. But yes, resourcing is very much high on the agenda.
Any other questions, members? No?
Thank you, Chair. So, I mean, I didn't really want to go through the report in detail, so I'll probably be finished on that one. Thank you, Chair.
Can I have a proposer for the report? Councillor Tierney, thank you. Can I have a seconder for the report? Councillor Christie, thank you. I now open the item for discussion. Please raise your hand if you have any comments, but I think everyone's made any comments. There are no further speakers or questions. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was really around item 7.3 on here, which was around the
The charter.
5.3. Let me go back to that one, which was the no, I am 7.4. Sorry, my numbers muddled up. I'm thinking through here. It was the external quality assessment. It was just sort of. I just wondered if you could sort of just very briefly just talk us through how that was done and sort of what assurances we can have as to the independence of it.
Again, thank you, Councillor. Apologies again, I wasn't here when this was done, but as far as I understand, the report gave a general conformity assessment. So from an external point of view, they were happy with the processes, policies, and process of the Internal Audit Department. So they gave the highest rating that they could. So that is a very positive point for the Internal Audit Department. So we're quite pleased with that. But there are challenges that we have to address going forward. But I'm hoping that, and you'll see in subsequent reports, that we will sort of change it a little bit to make it a little bit more focused. So, but we're very pleased with the EQA external quality assessment result.
One I was going to make, I think I read through the report in quite some detail there. So under the circumstances, it looks like there's been a hell of a lot of good work done there. So I think that should be applauded as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor. Just to add to that, and because David wasn't here in November 22 when we had, it is a requirement that every 3 years we have to have an external body come in, the same as we do with external auditors, to audit to make sure that we are. I like the terminology. Generally conforms is the highest mark you can get. So we were delighted with that, but you know, it's the same as auditors calling me adequate. If anyone else called me adequate, I'm not sure I would take it as a glowing assessment. But generally conforms is the highest rating. The report was presented to a previous audit and risk, and I appreciate you were not on there, but the papers are available. So if you wanted to go back to the previous report or the previous meeting, Councillor Christie, you would see you'd see that report in its entirety. And one of the other things I'd note was they did note, which is linked to what David has said, that we probably did too many audits as a small district council. So one of the things going forward is perhaps we're looking doing less internal audits, but more related to the risks that we've got as a district council. And that was one of the recommendations that came out anyway. So although we didn't deliver the full audit plan last year, it was worked that the external assessor said that we were delivering too many. So delighted that David was able to give an opinion of adequate for 22-23.
Are there any further questions? Okay, thank you. Therefore, the recommendation is for the Audit and Risk Management Committee to note the outturn for internal audit for 22-23, which highlights the audits that were completed as per the agreed internal audit plan and their associated assurance ratings, and also additional assurances gained from the other sources of work completed in-house and externally to support the annual audit opinion. To note, the interim internal audit manager's opinion on the adequacy of GRC processes, and to note that the positive outcomes of the independent quality assurance review. Please can you raise your hand if you disagree with the recommendations of the report, otherwise I will take it that you agree. No raised hands, therefore the recommendations are approved. Agenda item 8 is the Audit and Risk Management Committee Annual Report for 22-23. I'll now call upon David to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chair. Again, this is the annual report on the commitment and effectiveness of this committee from April 22 to March 23. So again, I will take it as the report is read. There are reductions in the coverage from last year, certainly with the external audit assurance. But as you can see, it talks about the programme that you've had the annual governance statement presented to you, the internal audit work, again covering the annual plan and strategy, the opinion for 21-22, and then obviously progress updates in every audit committee meeting. Plus, say, the effectiveness of the internal audit function. So this EQA again came in, so you've had that as well as risk management framework and treasury management from finance. So you've been given a broad report base of the work from a governance point of view. So that's all this report is basically going, and there was a questionnaire at the back with an assessment of what we have to do. And there are still a couple of actions required from the previous year, so we're going to take them forward again, and they're in respect of the position statement of SIPFA regarding the terms of reference for this committee. So we just want to make sure that they're aligned, and I think that was in the twice assessment of current members. Oh yeah, we still have to do an assessment of current members against core knowledge and skills. I mean, there was training earlier as well that we can make sure that that aligns. And then the one that we've had to have a look at is about the value added of this committee. So again, that will come out in the fullness of time on that one. So those are the only areas that I'm going to be looking at over the next few months, and we'll report back to this committee.
Thank you. Can I have a proposer for the report, please? Councillor Tierney, thank you. Can I have a seconder for the report? Councillor Harris, thank you. I now open the item for discussion. Please raise your hand if you have any comments to make. There are no questions. Therefore, the recommendation is for the Audit and Risk Management Committee to agree the Audit and Risk Management Committee Annual Report for 22-23. Please raise your hand if you disagree with the report recommendation. Otherwise, I will take it that you agree. There are no hands raised, therefore the recommendation is approved. Thank you. Agenda item 9 is the Internal Audit Charter. I now call upon David to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. The Internal Audit Charter is basically it defines the purpose, authority and responsibility of internal audit. It's not a document that we bring on a regular basis, but it's meant to follow after an EQA. So we had that back in Feb, so it followed that this should come now. It's normally said every 3 years, so it should align with that. So it's a do's and don'ts, what we're responsible for, what we're not responsible for. So again, bringing it forward to the committee again, it's just an update. It's not brand new work.
Yep.
So there aren't many, I don't think there are basically any changes. The reporting line is changed to accommodate now to Amy as Assistant Director. That needed updating. Apart from that, the scope and resources and competencies and trainings are all basically the same. Thank you, Chair.
Can I have a proposer for the report, please? Councillor Tierney, thank you. Can I have a seconder for the report? Councillor Christie, thank you. I now open the item for discussion. If you have any comments, please raise your hand. Councillor Tierney.
I think I'd only say, Chairman, it sometimes feels if we're not commenting as if we're not engaged with the meeting, but when things are running smoothly, there's not a great deal to say, and it's not worth speaking for the sake of it. So just in case there's anyone tuning into this and watching, I suppose that's unlikely, but just in case they are tuning and watching, that's the reason we don't speak. It's because there's nothing contentious going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Yeah.
David, I'll just ask, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it actually said all amendments have been highlighted in yellow, and I couldn't see anything in yellow. So I don't know whether that got lost somewhere in the working and the agenda being published.
Yeah, I apologise for that. Yes, I should have adhered to the yellows, but there's some minor changes. There's nothing major in there, but I apologise that there should have been something. I mean, if you like, if the committee likes, I will do that for the next meeting.
Well, I'll be honest and say I had the Word copy with the changes on in yellow. So somewhere between that and coming and being published, those yellows have lost. But they were very minor, and I think they were probably about reporting lines and things like that. But it doesn't change the whole message. So I'm not recommending it has to come back because the changes were absolutely minor. Yeah. So that's up for the committee if they want.
Okay, thank you.
I think, sorry, what we'll do is circulate the version to the audit committee after this meeting with the yellow highlights, and if there is any issues, people can come back to us and we can bring it back. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, David, you talked about the frequency of review of the charter. Did you say that was every 3 years, is it? Or what's the sort of normal recommendation for that?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. It is normally 3 years in line with the external quality assessment. It really should only come if there are any changes. I mean, the charter is almost like this is the do's and don'ts of internal audit. This is what we're here for. So it shouldn't really fundamentally change at all, but there will be some minor tweaks. So it's always good to have a review after the EQA anyway.
Any further questions? There are no further speakers, therefore the recommendation is for the Audit and Risk Management Committee to consider and approve the Internal Audit Charter. Please raise your hand if you disagree with the report recommendation. Otherwise, I will take it that you agree. There are no hands raised, therefore the recommendation is approved. Agenda item 10 is the Internal Audit Plan for 23-24, Progress Report Quarter 1. I now call upon David once again to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. So this is for the Internal Audit Plan 23-24 for the first quarter, April to June. Again, so come in mid-May, sort of middle of the period, trying to get an understanding of what's been going on vis-a-vis the audit plan. So we've been looking at what was brought forward, trying to work on that. Now, the team have been challenged in all the other things that they've had to pick up since the departure of the previous head of audit. So I really commend their work personally. So we have in there a number of audits that are still being finalised. So we've got 3 that are on the verge of being finalised and report with management. In fact, 2 should be done by the end of this week, and the other one, hopefully, I'll get a bit of a steer on it in the next few weeks. But the auditor is now the term time auditor, so the finalisation may be September. But the body of the work's there, and I think management have already seen the report. I mean, to be honest, that's I'm going to lead on to where we are, that with the departure of one auditor at the end of this week and the other one term time only, there won't be capacity to do any internal audit work during the month of August. But what that will allow me to do is I'm reviewing the audit plan for 23-24 to make it more risk focused, and we'll be doing fewer audits but better quality audits to give better assurance to the committee, because I feel some of these have been a bit light touch. We really need to focus on all aspects, and I think we've been picking and choosing a few. So as Peter said earlier, I'd rather scale it down to some meatier audits to give that assurance and align it with the council plan, as well as the risk register. So I'm working with CMT and management team to hone that. Again, it's a fresh pair of eyes for the committee to see this, and again, working with Peter and Amy, I think this is going to be a good shift for Fenland and audit team.
Can I have a proposer for the report, please? Councillor Christie, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Harris, thank you. I'll now open the item for discussion. Please raise your hand if you have any comments.
Just wondering, so it looks like you've got a lot of work on your hands there, David, so yeah, good luck with that. But the main one I was asking about, I know I'm new to this committee here, is around the external audit reports as well. I noticed it's deferred from July. I don't know if you've got any comments you'd like to make on that at all.
Sorry, Councillor, was on the external audit?
Yeah, it says audit results report, 25th of September, external audit. So on page, let's see what page number is in.
That's the next item.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Sorry.
So that's agenda item 11.
Yeah,
Through, am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, I think Peter will be best placed for that one rather than me.
Yeah.
Any other comments? No. No further speakers, therefore the recommendation is the Audit and Risk Management Committee is asked to consider and note the activity and performance of the internal audit function. Please raise your hand if you disagree with the report. Otherwise, recommendation is that, otherwise, I will take it that you agree. Sorry. Thank you, members. No raised hands, therefore the recommendations are approved. Agenda item 11 is the Audit and Risk Management Committee work plan, which I believe Councillor Christie has a question on.
I do. I refer to my question, Peter. External audit. So, if you give us an update or comments around the external audit report.
With your permission, Mark Saunders is here. Under items of topical interest, I was going to talk about, or Mark's going to talk about where we are with external audit. So are you happy that I can defer that to that item?
Yep, happy with that. Yep.
Lovely. Thank you.
Any other questions on the work plan? No. Thank you. The work plan is noted for information. Agenda item 12 is items of topical interest. I'm going to pass you over to Mark, who has something to say on that.
Oh, right, here we go. Whoa, God. Was that the only item we left? Yeah. Okay. Hello, I don't think I've met Councillor Christie and Councillor Harris before, so my name's Mark Saunders. I'm the Council's Chief Accountant, and you'll be seeing a lot of myself in this committee during the year, as we have several things to be presented to committee as we go through the calendar year, as you'll see on that previous report. So unfortunately, you'll be seeing a lot more of myself. You can't avoid seeing Peter because he has to be here, but I will be here as well. Yes, the audit for 21-22. Now this is a very, very sorry tale, and becoming very, very frustrating. We're at a point where we're constantly getting new queries from the auditors to try and answer, and we are answering them, and they come up with new ones, So tomorrow I have a meeting with the external auditors to try and get these resolved and to try and get some sort of timetable agreed as to actually finish off the audit. The vast majority of the work's been done. It's all bits and pieces they keep coming up with at the moment. Unfortunately, this is not an issue with just ourselves. It's a national issue. The auditors across the country are way behind in completing the 21-22 audits. And the letter we received from the Department of Levelling Up Housing Communities last week on the local audits, they're currently conducting an inquiry into the local audit regime. And they say at the moment, this was last week, 18th of July, only 27% of audits for 21-22 have been completed. And the combined total of outstanding audits dating back to 2015-16 is now totaling nearly 520. It's a massive problem nationally with the auditors not being able to complete audits for local authorities. And this is why they've got the inquiry set up at the moment. They're trying to come up with solutions to that, or ways of trying to get the whole process back on track. But it's a massive problem. They've got a massive backlog, and they'll be consulting over the summer on various measures in which to try and bring some of these audits to conclusion as quickly as possible. Now, ours should be able to be concluded fairly quickly. There is not an awful lot for them to do other than find new queries to come up with. It is quite mind-boggling. So we're hoping to get that resolved as soon as possible. And at the moment, I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to bring the audit results report, which is essentially the external auditors report on their audit of the statement of accounts for 2022 to September's committee, at which time, following that, they will be able to sign off the 21-22 accounts, and then we can get those audited accounts published. The draft accounts are published, obviously, on the website, but we'll need to get the final audited accounts published, and the final statement of accounts will also be presented at September committee meeting, assuming that we can get the auditors to a position where they're happy to complete the work. But like I say, there's not an awful lot else to do. All the queries are very minor, but they just go through their process because they have a massive tick box exercise they have to go through to make sure they cover all the various aspects of it. But they are going into an extraordinary amount of detail on very minor issues, which is very frustrating because they simply don't find anything, and then the longer they look, they just won't find anything. So it's a bit frustrating. This audit was supposed to have been completed by December last year, and it was dragged on for another 7 months. And it's just a recurring nightmare at the moment. Because obviously, while this is going on, we're completing the 22-23's work. We are having to do the monitoring work for this year, 23-24. And next month, we'll be starting the budget process for 24-25. So all this is going on at the same time, and it gets all condensed into a shorter period of time, which becomes very challenging for our resources that we have. So it's frustrating, but I'm hopeful that we'll get it concluded in the next few weeks for 21-22. Who'd have said that? After 38 years of working here, this is the longest audit I've ever known. And it's only really been the last couple of years where these deadlines for the external audit have been missed by some considerable distance. And it's a national issue. The auditors have nowhere near enough resources to complete the work in the time that they're allowed. So we'll see what DLUC come up with in terms of measures that we can actually expedite some of this work. Because there are two main issues which they raised, and which has been raised for many years in terms of the audit of local authority accounts. One is the pension valuations, which causes the auditors no end of problems. and the other is the PPE, which is the property, plant and equipment valuations, basically our asset valuations. There are so many problems that arise from those, even though both of those that work, the pensions valuation work and the asset valuation work, we have carried out by expert external consultants, but they still create so many problems, and it's specifically raised in the inquiries work at the moment, which they're trying to do something about, because I mean, there's good reason why we have to include those in statement of accounts, but the actual things they're talking about and the issues they raise, they make absolutely no difference to our accounts whatsoever. They are purely accounting entries that we have to put through the system. Well, they do give indications about what your assets are worth, what liabilities you've got in terms of the pension liabilities, and when that's going to be recovered over the next 20, 30 years. But in terms of the actual in-year accounts, it has no impact whatsoever. And this is the point they're making here as well. There's got to be a better way of expediting that work so that you're able to close down the local authorities' accounts a lot quicker. And that's what they'll be focusing on, the consultation they'll be carrying out over the summer. So we're hopeful going forward that we'll get in a position where we'll be able to expedite some of this work. But for 2021 and 2022, and the figures just told you that it's a major national issue across the country. And I'm only aware of one authority in Cambridgeshire who have had their 21-22 accounts signed off. It was Cambridge City. All the rest are still going through that process, and it's not until you get to the end of that process that we will get the in terms of the work plan, when we get the actual external auditors report. So until they've completed their work, they will then present their report, and they normally come and present to the committee as well when they're ready to do that. So then you'll see their report, which is quite a detailed report, which goes into all their findings that they've through the work they've done through the accounts, and then they give their opinion then on the accounts. But it's been painful. It has been extremely painful, and it's an ongoing, recurring nightmare. I try not to think about when I lie in bed at night, but unfortunately, it's an ongoing. So sorry, we can't be a bit more positive, but I'm certainly hopeful that come September we'll have both the 21-22 accounts virtually ready for complete and signing off, and the 22-23 accounts will be our normal annual review of the 22-23 accounts prior to those being audited. But I think Peter may have mentioned it before, the audits for the 22-23 accounts, they've already told us that they won't be in a position to start any of those until November 23. And that's any authorities. They won't be able to start any 22-23 accounts before November 23. But given the backlog they've got, and given the work they've got to do to clear the backlog, I can't see them getting around to our accounts audits till this time next year. And it's going to be a massive issue. So there may be some adjustment to the work program as we go through the next couple of meetings, and when we get a better idea about what their plans are. But it's a painful process.
I think you can tell from Mark's disposition that, because it challenges us professionally, because we're not used to that anyway. Because we published the 21-22 accounts by the end of July last year, which we were meant to do. I haven't published the 22-23 because until I've got an opinion on 21-22, I don't feel I can answer the true and fair view question. So 22-23 draft accounts, we haven't published yet, and I won't do that until such time as the 21-22 accounts are concluded. Because if there's an issue with those, then the opening balances into 22-23 are going to be affected. Yeah. So we take it a bit personally, but I'll be a bit more upbeat. We are in a lot better position than a lot of others, because some of our neighbours have got 19, 20, accounts outstanding still. We're hopeful they will come to September. That would be great. That's what we're aiming for. But if the work programme changes, it won't be for want of trying on the officer side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought about whether I should say this or not. It sort of seems like all of these are interesting to hear that there's these councils all over the country with these things that are not signed off, and yet business continues and nothing is stalled and the world has not ended. And some might say that perhaps they don't really matter. But as a member of this committee, of course, I could never express that view.
God, Robert, dodgy ticker. All that work. I don't think I can disagree with this, Councillor Chairman, to be honest.
Yes, I suppose it echoes a little bit of that, but from an audit point of view, I guess from what you've explained there, Mark, that there's no additional risk that's been put on the council from those audits and all that external audit not being complete, especially the nature of the items that you.
No, certainly not as far as we're concerned, because the nature of the items that they're querying all the time are things which at the end of the day can affect the figures that are in your balance sheet, but don't affect your day-to-day, your overall surplus or deficit or your general position of the financial position of the council.
So I do think it's good to make that point, that it's not an additional risk to the council.
I think as we discussed at the training session, didn't we? I mean, the trainer was basically saying what we've just said as well. And for me, the key thing, we took the outturn for 22-23 to Cabinet. That, to me, is the key position. That's been agreed. We know where we are. I'm not going to make any comment, but to me, that's the key. We took the outturn. We know where we are financially, and that is the main thing. So as far as I'm concerned, the statement of accounts, we'd like them to be signed off. Of course we would. But I think we've done everything we can do, and the key numbers have been presented to Cabinet and are available for everyone to see.
I think it's just annoying now because it's dragging on, and because they have to be signed off eventually, legally signed off. It won't go away until we finish it, and then you've just got that hanging over you, and just while you're carrying on doing all the rest of the stuff, there's all these things in the background going on. Other work needs completing, so we want to get them done as quickly as possible and get that out of the way.
Thank you, Mark. Agenda item 13 is items which the Chairman under item 5 deem urgent, which I believe there are none. This marks the end of the meeting. The next meeting will be the 25th of September at 4 p.m. I declare this meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you.